Lord be with you. And with your spirit. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, Lord.
Jesus said to the crowds, "To what shall I compare the people of this generation? What are they like? They are like children who sit in the marketplace and call to one another. We played the flute for you, but you did not dance. We sang a dirge, but you did not weep. For John the Baptist came neither eating food nor drinking wine, and you said, 'He is possessed by a demon.' The Son of Man came eating and drinking, and you said, 'Look, he's a glutton and a drunkard, a friend of tax collectors and sinners.' But wisdom is vindicated by all her children." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
The first reading that we heard actually is a continuation of yesterday's first reading, which talks about who should lead the local church. What are the qualities of a leader in the church? And if you go a little bit further behind that, it's a whole chapter about how to act in the church. And so St. Paul instructs Timothy, who was one of the first bishops, in how to conduct, and basically he confides one of those early Christian communities, what's today Turkey. He gives it to Timothy, who becomes one of the first bishops. And so there's a whole list of qualities of those who are in the church, those who lead in the church should have, especially in light of, the pagan past. And so we're talking about an early church, a community that was composed of what were pagans, basically. And they didn't become Christians overnight. They had a lot of baggage with them. They brought in a lot of cultural baggage that still existed with them. For example, going further back in it, there's a question that's asked whether it's lawful to eat the meat of the sacrifices or not. And so, in the context of early Christianity, you think, well, what kind of question is that? Of course not. You shouldn't be eating meat of sacrifices. But we have to put it in the context. If anyone's ever gone to ancient Greece or even ancient Rome, very few of the pagan temples or the ruins of them still have the altar. The altars were taken down. But in a couple of cases, I was able to find one of these. And you know what the ancient altar really was? Una parrilla. It was a barbecue. Not for real. And you go in there, it had the grill, and you had the steps, and it was a very ornate stone, beautiful altar. And then it had a grill where you put the coals underneath, and you would cook, and you would offer the sacrifice that was slain at another altar. And so usually it was a bull that they would sacrifice. That was the highest sacrifice. They killed a bull. But, you just don't leave the bull there. And so, they cuartizan, they take it apart, and they put it on the altar where they roast it, and then that goes up into heaven. And, the community actually partakes in that roast, and that roast is then given to it, and you partake in the sacrifice, the community sacrifice to the gods there. Whoever ate the flesh or whoever ate that meat, was participating in what we call today fiestas patronales, but in the pagan sense. It's a little bit very similar, the idea of partaking in the common sacrifice. Now, on the other hand, this is the only time that most poor people ever had to eat meat, unless you were going to be able to afford to buy your own bull or buy your own calf, slay it, and eat it. This one was free. This one was given to the people of the community, and if you never had a steak, that was the time to get a steak. And so the Christians were asking, are we going to miss out on the asado of the community? That's basically what they were asking. Even though we don't believe in the gods or anything like that, but el asado es muy rico, we don't want to miss that. And so that was the baggage that they were bringing in with them. There was a saying that said that the Christians, that would say around the 3rd century, around the year 200, said that we Christians live in the world, but we are not part of the world. We are not of the world. And so the Christian lives in this tension between being here and enjoying the things and being part of what is here, but also with his gaze outward, heavenward, to the final destination where we're all called. And so we must also separate in us, in our communities, and in our lives, that which is worldly, that which keeps me anchored down to here, and that which is heavenly and takes me up there. And we do it in so many ways. And this is what we hear St. Paul essentially telling that community. Start separating what is of God's and what is not of God's, of the world. one of them is going to serve us more than the other. And so little by little, whether it be in our behaviors, in our customs, in the way we do things, let that start reflected in the church community. You are of God, not of the world. And so we keep many of these signs and these customs to remind us that many times. The fact that the priest is here. This is where the sacred ministers are. It's blocked off, it's signaled off by a certain arts, color, a rug. Even the priest dresses differently. I don't go to dinner or to lunch wearing this. No. And then I don't celebrate Mass wearing regular clothes either. And so we separate ourselves. We have to mark that division in what we do, how we act. It reflects a world vision that we would have as well. The Germans call that Weltanschauung, a way of looking out into the world, a sight of the world. Because if there's a heavenly order to things, if there's a heavenly order, then we have to reflect it somehow in our world. We have to make it present on earth, and much better when we do. And so, this heavenly order that we seek to put in the world, there's no surprise that causes so many clashes. It's a clash sometimes of how to be a family, how to live in a family, to impose a heavenly order in our home when the world wants to impose a different order or disorder. It comes in ethics and what is right and what is wrong. And we know that there's one set of rules out in the world of what is right and what is wrong, what's acceptable. Yet there's another one if we're looking heavenward. Our society at the end has that tension between the two. And the more we bring our world, our lives, our homes into union, into communion with that heavenly order, well, the more that we become that visible church on earth, that our homes become the church, our family becomes a church, and that we make up the church, and we take up that leadership in the church which we've been called to do. And so we ask the Lord through the intercession of not only St. Paul and St. Timothy, those first leaders that have laid down the constitution of what it is to be a leader in the church, that they may inspire us and give us that strength to be able to attach ourselves to that which is heavenly and divine, and be able and ready to leave behind and to separate those things that do not take us there. In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.